And we're live, I think. We'll see. Throw me some comments, chat, if you don't mind, just to confirm that we are indeed live. John, that's very nice. Thank you so much. That's very, very sweet. I really appreciate that. Seattle Seahawks. I hear you. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Rick, for confirming. Looks like we got some Seahawks fans here. All good to go. All systems green. All systems green. Okay, so I'm going to need your help to confirm that the audio from this thing works. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, let's see if let me make sure my audio's okay. 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 You guys can hear me okay, I'm assuming, right? I'm gonna play just a quick YouTube video just to make sure it works. I can see myself. Oh, I never changed the thumbnail. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. All right. Can you guys hear Dave?
Welcome to a live stream here.
It says that you should be able to hear him.
Fine, go ahead and give me a thumbs up.
Can you guys give me a thumbs up since Dave's asking for a thumbs up?
We are waiting.
Okay.
The Tesla's,
Dave, yes. Okay, good.
Share.
All right, so we got audio set up right, I believe. Okay. I love how we use Dave to confirm. Dave's the man. I don't know how long you guys have been following Dave, but Dave I've been following since since back in 2013, back in Tesla Motors Club days, and he had these mega threads where he like sat down and just reviewed, basically broke down Tesla super early on. And he is, ever since then, he's been just on top of Tesla. And since he came out with his YouTube channel, I've been following him as well. And he's great, man. He's so smart. And somebody that actually, honestly, I look up to. I do look up to him, especially when it comes to trying to learn how to invest and how to think about companies and sort of the broader sense of how different variables can impact the company. It's been very great for me to watch him sort of his thought process. And then I had the privilege of having him on my channel and talk to him for almost 2 hours. He had me on his channel. We sat down and talked for almost an hour. So he's great. He's great, and he's somebody that I always follow. His last name, Dave Lee. Dave Lee is on YouTube. If you haven't watched his stuff, I highly recommend it. His YouTube is Dave Lee on investing. He's great. Yes, he does. He has very, very good vision. I believe he's had it for that long as well. He's great. He's awesome. He was the Sandy Monroe of Tesla threads. Yeah, he was. He spent so much time writing these things up, man. These mega threats. The mega threads. I'm calling it like a mega threat, like mega death or something. I like the videos he makes on other companies as well, like Google and Facebook. Yeah, he has a very broad baseline, right? He doesn't just focus on Tesla. He does a bunch of different companies. Yeah, I don't know how much he's got, but if he followed his own advice, he would have a lot. Excuse me. Snowbird in Titusville, now from northeastern Pennsylvania. Love the culture in Bethlehem. The Stacks is such an awesome place. And thank you for your time. Love Dave. SMR2. Thoughts on him? Yeah, SMR. You guys want a little bit of a sneak peek into SMR? Maybe should I spoil it? I don't know. I won't spoil it. I think that's enough. I do like Stephen Mark Ryan a lot, but that's all I'm going to say. There might be something later this week on my channel. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Any word on semis? I read an article on Bazinga like a month ago stating PepsiCo is getting 11-ish semis by end of January. Yeah, I don't know. I know very little about the semi. Who knows what the production ramp's going to be? They've announced it for a long time, so it would make sense that it releases soon. But I feel like Dave is a little bit more chill than Sandy. Yeah, I don't think Dave curses nearly as much as Sandy does. I think Sandy comes across as somebody that curses a lot more. But I like them both. They're both excellent in their own ways. Yeah, he raised $450,000 for a food relief project in Afghanistan, which was incredible. He's also very humanitarian in a way, and he's just a great guy. Welcome, Angela. Yeah, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Okay, I'm gonna click on this thing right here. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Should be some dope beats coming from this live stream thing. Can you guys hear that? Yeah. Do you guys hear that? Do you confirm if you do? Okay. All right, we got audio. We'll put this in the background. Okay. And now, see that our live stream's got audio now too. Look at that. Thank you, Tesla. Don't play music too long. You're gonna get demonetized. Okay. We'll just mute it for the time being, and then once it hits 4:30, we'll play it. Although maybe their music is royalty free. I would be surprised if we do get kicked out because of their music. But maybe we'll play it safe. Give away 5,000 shares. Yeah, if he did, that's amazing. You want cursing? SMR is king. Haha, we would love an interview. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a potty mouth himself. You know what? I do too. It's just I don't think you guys see it very often. I do. I view cursing as a way of really helping drive a point in a way. And there's sometimes if you get me really worked up, I don't stop cursing, but it's okay. You know, I try to be even keel as much as I can. Does service have the potential to be profitable on its own? I think long term for sure. I don't think Tesla would be in its own. I don't think they would be in the game of service unless they thought it could be profitable. It wouldn't make any sense to have a loss leader. Yeah. More beatbox. You don't want to hear me beatbox. Trust me. Someone leaked pictures, semi-charging ports in Frito-Lay warehouses in Modesto. Yeah, they might very well be getting ready to release the semi. Oh, thank you, Rick. Thank you. I think having the big guy on the big TV and the small guy on the iPad makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Now, I know somebody who broadcast the Tesla earnings call monetized for it. Okay. Yeah, so be careful with that. Hello. Can Shanghai build a Model 2 $25,000 car in Shanghai's footprint? No, they probably will need to expand footprint, right? They'll probably need to build more capacity. I just don't see how that's possible. They're already, it seems like they're cranking the crap out of that facility already based on what they have, but who knows? I could be wrong. Let me make sure I have this on low latency mode. How do I check that? I thought there was a way for me to check this. Sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're on low latency. Okay, we're good. How long is the earnings call expected to be? Probably like an hour, right? It's usually an hour. Happy to be part of the club, mapping out my grandson's future with Tesla. Looking forward to my first Cybertruck. Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of us here will think that it's an amazing investment, and so as long as you have a long time horizon, I think Tesla's going to serve you very well. But welcome, yeah, everybody's welcome. I'm excited for my Cybertruck too. Dave gave 5,000 options shares for someone to buy. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, he does not hold back, does he? He just says it how it is. 40% auto gross margins in the future. Yeah, the latter kind of indicated that they're going to have a lot of growth in that, you know? So who knows? Who knows what can happen? I have the music in the background here a little bit just to make sure that I'm not missing them going live. And as soon as they go live, I'm going to basically shut up and let them talk. Maybe interject here and there if I hear something pretty nutty, but that's about it. Lol. Rich Evans highlighted big letdowns in Tesla service. What do you think about Tesla service? Yeah, I actually made a video about Tesla service a couple days ago. I would, check, feel it out. If you want, it's on my channel. You can check it out. But really, my overarching theme with service is that things aren't as bad as you think they are. but they're also not as good as you think they are, and they're usually probably regional or specific to parts. But yeah, all service issues should be handled, but I don't think there's that many to be concerned. But we should also talk about them, right? But that's sort of the overarching theme of the video. Yeah, we're almost there. I think it's time, so we'll see. I'm gonna crank this up just a little higher and just wait and see if it kicks in. Do you have any interest in BYD stock? I've heard about it a lot, but I'm curious to see if it's going to be a thing in the. Yeah, I need to do more research into it. I know the company's from China, and I know they're one of the most heavily vertically integrated companies in the world, but I don't know much about them outside of that. How many Cybertrucks can Tesla build in 1 year? I don't know. They might give guidance on that on this call. Who knows? We'll see. Who knows? No comments on Tesla YouTube. I'll leave it here. Excited. Thanks for hosting. You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. Elon is live. Is he? I don't think he's live yet. I don't think he's here yet. We'll wait for him. We'll wait for him. Yeah, I only got water. Couldn't find any beer. I think we're out of beer. Unfortunately. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog in the background there. She's excited for the earnings call too. She's like, yeah, earnings call. Have you always said y'all, or are you only after moving to Texas? Only after moving to Texas, man. There's something about, people love saying it. It's hard not to say it. Oh, are we live? Are we live?
Good
I think we're
afternoon,
live.
everyone, and welcome
Okay,
to
I'm gonna shut up.
Tesla's fourth quarter 2021 Q&A webcast. My name is Martin Vieca, Senior Director of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives. Our Q4 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today.
Do you confirm that you guys can hear this okay?
Differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one. The raise hand button to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thanks, Martin. So just to recap, 2021, it was a breakthrough year for Tesla and for electric vehicles in general. And while we battled, and everyone did, with supply chain challenges through the year, we managed to grow our volumes by nearly 90% last year. This level of growth didn't happen by coincidence. It was a result of ingenuity and hard work across multiple teams throughout the company. The highest in the last widely reported quarter at over 14% GAAP operating margin. Lastly, thanks to $5.5 billion of million, small finger by the mouth, $5.5 billion of GAAP net income in 2021, our accumulated profitability since the inception of the company became positive, which I think makes us a real company at this point. This is a critical milestone for the company. So after an exceptional year, we shift our focus to the future. Texas and Berlin. So we've begun production at both Texas and Berlin. We started that last quarter. But that's not the most important thing. We focus more on when to get to volume production and when can we deliver cars to customers. But I think it is worth noting that we, and as the internet has observed, we've been making quite a few cars in Texas and Berlin. So in Boston and Berlin. So in Texas, we're building the Model Ys with the structural battery pack and the 4680 cells. And we will start delivering after final certification of the vehicle, which should be fairly soon. Capacity expansion will continue through maximizing output of each factory and building new factories in new locations in the future. Although we're not ready to announce any new locations on this call, but we will, through 2022, look at new locations and probably be able to announce new locations towards the end of this year, I expect. So in 2022, supply chain will continue to be the fundamental limiter of output across all factories. So the chip shortage, while better than last year, is still an issue. And yeah, so that's there are multiple supply chain challenges, and last year was difficult to predict, and hopefully this year will be smooth sailing. But you know, not sure what you do for an encore to 2021, 2020. But nonetheless, we do expect significant growth in 2022 over 2021. You know, comfortably above 50% growth in 2022. Full self-driving. So over time, we think full self-driving will become the most important source of profitability for Tesla. I mean, actually, if you run the numbers on robotaxis, it's kind of nutty. It's nutty good from a financial standpoint. And I think we're completely confident at this point that it will be achieved. And you know, my personal guess is that we will achieve full self-driving this year. Yeah, with at a safety level significantly greater than a person. So it you know, the cars in the fleet essentially becoming self-driving via software update, I think might end up being the biggest increase in asset value of any asset class in history. We shall see. It will also have a profound impact on improving safety and on accelerating the world towards sustainable energy through vastly better asset utilization. Let's see. So on the product roadmap front, there's quite a lot to talk about. I'm not going to go through every sort of thing that we're working on because I think a lot of them deserve product launches of their own, as opposed to a few minutes on an earnings call. So I'll talk kind of at a high level. Yeah, mostly at a high level. The fundamental focus of Tesla this year is scaling output. So you know, both last year and this year, if we were to introduce new vehicles, our total vehicle output would decrease. This is a very important point that I think a lot of people do not understand. So last year, we spent a lot of engineering and management resources solving supply chain issues, rewriting code, changing out chips, reducing the number of chips we need. That was chip drama central. And that was not the only supply chain issue. So there's just hundreds of things. And as a result, we were able to grow almost 90% while I believe almost every other manufacturer contracted last year. So that's a good result. But if we had introduced, say, a new car last year, our total vehicle output would have been the same because of the constraints, the chips constraints particularly. So if we'd actually introduced an additional product, that would then require a bunch of attention and resources on that increased complexity of the additional product, resulting in fewer vehicles actually being delivered. And the same is true of this year. So we will not be introducing new vehicle models this year. It would not make any sense because we will still be parts constrained. We will, however, do a lot of engineering and tooling and whatnot to create those vehicles, the Cybertruck, Semi, Roadster, Optimus, and be ready to bring those to production, hopefully next year. That is most likely. But like I said, it is dependent on are we able to produce more cars or fewer cars? in terms of priority of products, I think I think that actually the most important product development we're doing this year is actually the Optimus humanoid robot. This, I think, has the potential to be more significant than the vehicle business over time. If you think about the economy, it is the foundation of the economy is labor. Capital equipment is distilled labor. So what happens if you don't actually have a labor shortage? I'm not sure what an economy even means at that point. That's what Optimus is about. So
Mind blown, by the way.
Let's see, Drew, do you want to talk about the 4680 program?
Sure.
Or is this good right the right time?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So throughout 2021, we focused
He was
on
not ready
growing
for
cell
that.
supply alongside our in-house 4680 effort to provide us flexibility and insurance as we attempt to grow as fast as possible. As we sit today, cells from suppliers is actually sort of exceeds our other factory limiting constraints that you mentioned, Elon, in 2022. Or to say differently, 4680 cells are not a constraint to our 2022 volume plans based on the information we have. But we are making meaningful progress up the ramp curve in Cato. We're building 4680 structural packs every day, which are being assembled into vehicles in Texas. I was driving one yesterday and the day before. And we believe our first 4680 vehicles will be delivered this quarter. Our focus on the cell, the pack, and the vehicles here is driving yield, quality, and cost to ensure we're ready for larger volumes this year as we ramp and next year. And the 4680 and pack tool installations here at Giga Austin are progressing well, with some areas producing first parts, and the internet has also noticed that. Yeah, I was touring the factory, the cell factory here yesterday. I'm super pumped. It's like a really exciting accomplishment for us to bring everything into one awesome factory here in Texas.
Absolutely. And just to repeat Drew's point, we still expect to be part or primarily chip limited this year. So that's the thing. That's actually the driver. And that chip limitation should alleviate next year, and then probably we transition into a cell limitation, battery cell. It's total gigawatt hours of cell limitation, which is when the 4680 will become very important.
Agreed.
So,
Thank you very much. And now Zach has some opening remarks as well.
the long opening remark.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. As Elon mentioned, 2021 was a financially transformative year for the company. If we look across the full year 21 and compare that to 2020, our automotive gross margin, excluding credits, rose by over 600 basis points, enabled by work on cost reduction, utilization of our Shanghai factory for exports, and accelerating demand. OPEX as a percentage of revenue reduced despite the impact of one-time items and unique items, and operating income more than tripled, with operating margin reaching our guidance of mid-teens, and these margins are trending up. We also saw regulatory credits accounting for a relatively small portion of our 2021 profitability, which we expect to continue to reduce in materiality going forward. For Q4 specifically, automotive gross margin, excluding credits, increased to 29.2%, which is our highest yet. We do continue to see some impact of higher pricing on certain models and trims, as was the case in prior quarters. But please keep in mind that due to backlogs, changes in pricing will generally impact our financials in future quarters. Supply chain challenges and port congestion resulted in a significant increase in our expedite costs in Q4. We also took reserves associated with warranty and recall costs. Operating expenses were meaningfully impacted by stock-based compensation from the final two tranches of the CEO stock grant becoming probable, and payroll taxes associated with the exercise of the 2012 CEO options. The total impact of these payroll taxes, warranty and recall costs, and excess expedites was just over $700 million in the quarter. Our free cash flows have remained strong, reaching record levels in Q4 of $2.8 billion, despite increased CapEx. In addition to using cash to grow the business as quickly as we can, we have been retiring legacy and high-interest debt. Note that we plan to continue to utilize the ABS market for product-specific financing. As we look forward, we expect 2022 to be another significant and exciting year for the company. We continue to drive for vehicle volume growth at or above 50%, as Elon mentioned, and our plans show that this is actually achievable with just our Fremont and Shanghai factories. For quite some time now, these factories have been running below capacity due to macro challenges with supply and logistics. As Elon mentioned as well, from what we're seeing, the pace of growth in 2022 will again be determined by supply chain and logistics, which is quite difficult for us to forecast. Despite these constraints, it's important to begin the ramp of Austin and Berlin to ensure that we are prepared once limitations ease, enabling us to increase total output more quickly in the future. This will result in higher fixed and semi-variable costs in the near term, in addition to the usual inefficiencies as we ramp a new factory. We are also seeing inflation and rising commodity prices, which we expect to continue to put pressure on our costs. How this specifically impacts gross margins in the near term is uncertain, given a mix of both tailwinds and headwinds. However, we do expect to continue to see stronger operating margins as we grow our volumes and improve operating leverage. Over a longer-term horizon, we are quite optimistic about the expansion of margins, though. From the hardware side, we are aggressively driving manufacturing innovations and operational efficiency to reduce cost. And with the rapid development of FSD, software-based profits will ultimately become a strong addition to the profits generated by selling hardware. So congratulations to the Tesla team for a terrific 2021, and thank you to our suppliers who supported us. Looking forward to another great year.
I'd like to just second the thank you to suppliers. A lot of suppliers work very late nights, weekends, vacations around the world, and we're very grateful for that.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the Q&A from the investor side. The first question was on 4680 cells, which we already answered. So let's go to the second question. How is the progress of the $25,000 compact car? Can you give an update?
Well, we're not currently working on the $25,000 car. At some point we will, but we have enough on our plate right now. Too much on our plate, frankly. So at some point there will be. But I think that's sort of a question that it's sort of the wrong question. Really, it's really the thing that overwhelmingly matters is when is the car autonomous? At the point at which is autonomous, the cost of transport drops by, I don't know, a factor of 4 or 5.
Thank you. The next question from investors is, since we're talking product roadmaps today, how do you view domestic cooling and heating in the context of accelerating the sustainable energy transition? And how might Tesla's HVAC and heat pump advances fit it?
You want to talk about that, Drew?
I think from a mission perspective, it's very aligned. If you imagine replacing natural gas, water, and space heaters with electric heat pumps, it offsets something equivalent to like 80% of what a solar plus Powerwall system would offset. So it's very impactful. And we have learned a lot about how to make capable and reliable heat pumps that work in all environmental conditions, and are excited about the idea of working on that problem one day. We put it that way. It's definitely aligned with our mission to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy.
Yeah, I think it really becomes quite a compelling solution to the consumer, where you integrate the electric vehicles, charging, solar, energy storage, hot water, HVAC in a very tight, compact package that also looks good. It just doesn't exist. Yeah, I mean,
the integration of those systems in a house.
That's Lars, by the way. But
Sorry, the integration of those systems in a house are no different than the integration of those systems in a vehicle.
Yeah.
The only difference is
Yeah.
we do it all in a vehicle.
It's way harder than a vehicle.
And then,
It's so constrained on mass and volume and
yeah,
energy. It's like you get to the house, you're like, wow. Okay,
kind of easy problem.
yeah.
But, you know, obviously those systems are all just disparate and what we've been doing with the Powerwall and charging solar is integrating them more and more.
Yeah,
The next logical step is obviously HVAC and water and heating. So we will do that. And we will integrate it probably better than anyone has. But as you said, we have a lot of stuff on our plate.
Yeah.
So
And obviously it integrates with your phone and
Vehicle.
phone app and everything. And then the car can, like the house can just heat and cool things because it knows you're coming home,
Yeah.
you know, type of thing. It just doesn't need to be like randomly that temperature when you're not there or, you know.
when the cat moves,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly. So just do sensible things and just work really well. I think it'd be just quite a game changer down the road. We got a lot of fish frying on it, and so it is a thing we will do, but we're not committing to a time frame at this point.
And people should do it anyway.
Yeah, if somebody else wants to do it, yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, it's super beneficial for achieving the goal here.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is, would you consider splitting FSD packages into perpetual and term licenses with a higher tier for both options for commercial use? A perpetual license could be attached to individual or business and not the vehicle itself.
No, I mean, it sounds maybe too complicated. We're just going to be focused on like what solves for the fully considered lowest cost per mile or kilometer of driving. And these are so that's what matters. Like how do we maximize the efficiency of getting people from one place to another, and then charge them in a sensible way,
Including the charging infrastructure. That's a big part of it.
yeah, exactly. Charging for money and charging for energy.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is Dojo on track for summer 2022? And what challenges, if any, are you working through? Is Dojo necessary for FSD to operate better in cities like New York City? Or on a separate note, where should we expect the first implementation of Tesla bots? In your factories?
Okay, there's a few questions in there.
big 6 questions.
Yeah, Dojo appears to be on track for doing something useful in the summer of this year. I think the threshold that really matters is at which point, when does it become more competitive than a GPU cluster for training? And obviously the GPU cluster is getting better, so it's a moving target. But that's the goal I've set for the team is the FSD team running our GPU supercluster needs to tell me that they want to use Dojo instead. That's a obvious sort of threshold. I don't know when that will. It's like I wouldn't say like success is 100% certain here. I think you would just generally want to overestimate eating options and underestimate ourselves. But it does seem as though we might pass that threshold next year with Dojo if we execute well. Dojo is not needed for full self-driving, but it is a cost optimization on training vast amounts of video data. Cost optimization also a rate of improvement. So if you can train models faster and have a shorter iteration interval, then you can make progress faster. So, like not everything can be just distributed to a zillion deep GPUs. So there's some element of serialization there. So, And then, if Dojo is competitive, then, it does seem like the kind of thing where we would offer it to other companies that want to do neural net training. This is very much a neural net training optimized system. But in theory, it should be better than a generalized computing platform, or say GPUs, which were not really intended for, the pixel shaders, not directly intended for optimizing training of neural networks. They just happen to work better than CPUs in most cases. So you can think of like Dojo as like a giant ASIC, optimized for neural net training, especially video, or video-like things. But as like I said, we're not saying for sure Dojo will succeed. We think it will. We would encourage those who think this is an interesting problem to join Tesla. Yeah. So.
Thank you. And the first use of Tesla Bot, whether it's in the factory or elsewhere?
Yeah, the first use of the Tesla Bot, Optimus. The Optimus name seems to be sticking, at least internally. Optimus subprime.
These jokes are so bad sometimes.
Yeah, like if we can't find a use for it, then we shouldn't expect that others would. So the first use of the Tesla Optimus robot would be at Tesla, kind of like moving parts around the factory or something like that.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question on insurance. When do you plan on having your insurance service rolled out in all the states? International rollout timing in markets that have Tesla insurance, what kind of uptake rates are you seeing?
Yeah, we currently offer Tesla insurance in 5 states in the U.S. 4 of them are telematics, which is Texas, Illinois, Ohio, and Arizona. And then California, which has a more standard insurance offering based upon regulations there.
It should be clear, like we're pushing very hard for California to change the rules to allow informatics, which basically means that you're as safe as your driving is measured. So I think the current California rules are contrary to the best interests of the consumers in California, and should be changed.
Yeah, and that's evidenced by what we're seeing in Texas, where we've been in this market now for about 3 months. And what we see in the data is the frequency of collision by folks who are given a feedback loop on how they are driving is quite a bit lower than the frequency of collision otherwise.
Yeah,
and
we give people direct feedback on whether driving is safe. And if they drive safer, their insurance costs less, so they drive safer. It's great. It encourages Tesla insurance with informatics and real-time feedback, encourages safer driving and rewards it. I mean, monetarily, it's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we see that so far in Texas. Take rates have been quite strong. We measure this on the conversion rate from when folks quote to see what their monthly rate would be at the starting point to what percentage of them purchase. So we're very encouraged by the interest that we're seeing in Texas. And then we've had enough history in Texas to see what does the loss ratios look like and how do the economics of the program work. And we're on the right track there as well. So we're comfortable with what we've seen in Texas to move as quickly as we can to scale this across the U.S. Specifically on the question about when we will be in all states, this is a slow process because of insurance being regulated at the state level. And so we have to go through each of those processes with each of the departments of insurance at each state. But our internal goal here by the end of the year is to be in enough locations that 80% of our customers within the U.S. Could choose to sign up for Tesla insurance if they wanted to. There's a lot of uncertainty around that based upon the regulatory processes, but that's our goal. And then as we make more progress rolling out in the states and each incremental state becomes a little bit less effort than the prior, that's when we'll turn our attention to the Europe market. We might be able to do that by the end of the year, starting to get work on Europe by the end of the year. We'll have to see how we progress in the US.
Thank you. Next question is, what is your expected max capacity from each of your current factories, Fremont, Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin, and timing for new factory announcements?
I don't think we want to comment on that. Like that's. It's always possible to increase the output of any given factory. So you say, well, what's the max capacity? Well, it's difficult to say what that max capacity is because you put a lot of effort into it, you increase capacity quite a lot. I think looking at the big picture, you don't necessarily always want to increase capacity at one factory because your logistics costs of transporting cars needs to be considered, especially as the cars become more affordable. You want to have factories that are not like thousands of miles away from the customers. So even if you could increase output, it may not actually be the smart thing to do. So in the US, for example, with Giga Texas coming up, we would want to deliver, say, Model Ys that are going to the eastern 2/3 of the United States from this factory. The logistics costs are going to be much less. But we will continue to increase output in Fremont and at Giga Nevada and in Shanghai and as I said at the beginning of the call, this 2022 is the year we will be looking at factory locations to see what makes the most sense, possibly with some announcement by the end of this year. Yeah.
Thank you. And the next question is, what are the biggest obstacles for Cybertruck volume production besides battery shortage?
Batteries will probably not be the limiting factor in Cybertruck production. There's a lot of new technology in the Cybertruck that will take some time to work through. And then there's a question of like, what's the average cost of a Cybertruck and to what degree is that affordable? You can make something infinitely desirable, but if it's not affordable, that will constrain people's ability to buy it because they simply don't have the money. I'd worry more about like, how do we make the Cybertruck affordable despite having all this awesome technology? That's the thing that will really set the rate. Aspirationally, we'd like it to be, in terms of just a rough order of magnitude, we'd like Cybertruck to be at least on the order of 250,000 vehicles a year. But it'll take us a moment to get to that level.
Thank you. The next question is, how much of Tesla's margin improvement is from number one,
Did I hear that
economies of
right?
scale, number two, production line design efficiencies, number three, reduced transportation costs from multiple plant locations, and number four, pricing versus cost inflation, or number five, other sources? And how much further could margins improve and why?
Yeah, there's basically four major factors if we look over the last year to the margin improvement in the company. And they're in no particular order here, but these are the big ones. So our mix of Model Y is increasing, as we've ramped that to higher capacity in Fremont and also in Shanghai. And the reason that matters is the Model Y is a vehicle that carries a higher profit than the Model 3. And so that is helpful on our margins. And then as we increase the volume on that program, with labor efficiencies, fixed cost amortization, they improve and the costs go down as well. The second one here is localization in Shanghai has been a huge help for margins for the company. And the obvious things around logistics and duties is a big part of it, but we've also that factory had a different line design, more efficient from the start, and we've been pushing the boundaries on the volume there. So that has been helpful. If you recall, at the beginning of the year, we also were in a transition to the new version of the Model S and Model X. And so as that has ramped over the course of the year, that has been helpful. And then we've also done various price increases in certain markets on certain models, which has helped there. So that's generally the story at a high level. As we look over the next quarter or two, as I mentioned in my opening remarks in the last call as well, we have rampant efficiencies from the launch of Austin and Berlin. We also have pressures coming from inflation, supply chain, raw materials, et cetera. And so, where that nets out is hard to say in the immediate term. And we obviously as a company are going to be driving to increase margins as much as we can. But I just want to be realistic that we're launching 2 factories simultaneously here, and it unavoidably will add cost to the business as we do that. And as we look further out, and Elon mentioned this in his opening remarks as well, the software portion of the business, I think, is the one to really pay attention to. As full self-driving features get rolled out to more and more folks. I mean, for me personally, I prefer to drive my car with the FSD beta on. I think as more and more people experience that, take rates there, and then as we work towards the robotaxi space, there's actually quite a bit of upside on margins from a software perspective.
Yeah, I think basically everything pales in comparison to the value of a robotaxi or full self-driving. Everything, that just tends to overwhelm everything. You just go from having an asset that has a utility of perhaps 12 hours a week for a passenger car to maybe around 50 or 60 hours a week. So a 5x increase in the utility of the asset. The cost didn't change.
To keep hammering the full self-driving thing, that's my biggest takeaway so far.
It's kind of blows your mind.
Seems really confident that it's going to work this year.
Thank you. And the last question from investors is, Elon mentioned level 4 autonomy could be achieved this year. Is it based off initial FSD beta rollout experience, or is level 4 ability predicated on Dojo being complete and online?
As mentioned earlier, Dojo is not required for full self-driving. It should have a positive effect on the cost of training networks. It's not just a question of like, does you get to full self-driving, but really it's kind of like the march of nines of reliability. Is it 99.999% reliable or 99.999999%? This gets nutty. So we obviously want to get to as close to perfection as possible. Frankly, being safer than a human is a low standard, not a high standard. People are very, very lossy, often distracted, tired, texting. Anyway, it's remarkable that we don't have more accidents. So so actually being better than human, I think is relatively straightforward, frankly. How do you be 1,000% better or 10,000% better? That's what that's much harder. But I think anyone who's been in the FSD beta program, I mean, if they were just to plot the progress of the beta in interventions per mile, it's obviously trending to, a very small number of interventions per mile, and pace of improvement is fast. And there are several profound improvements to the FSD stack that are coming, in the next few months. So, yeah. I would be shocked if we do not achieve full self-driving safer than a human this year. I would be shocked.
Thank you. Let's go to analyst questions now. And the first question comes from Jed from Canaccord. Jed, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hi, thanks. And congratulations on a great year. Elon, I guess my question's around the Megapack or your energy business. And so as we look at the strategy or the supply chain constraints that you mentioned, you have two different strategies, or it seems like, with Megapack and Powerwall. And I think the Powerwall was answered with 4680 and the 2170 opening up. So I was wondering if you could just talk about the supply chain and LFP for the Megapack and what we should expect for that.
Yeah, to be clear, we do think that all stationary storage, Powerwall and Megapack, will transition to an iron-based system, basically a non-nickel system. Manganese is also, could be part of the future, but primarily iron. It just comes down to iron, nickel. You need something that is formed in a star before a supernova, ideally. So, iron is. So there's a ridiculous amount of iron on Earth. There's also a ridiculous amount of lithium. So you can really expect all stationary storage to transition to iron over time. And like I said, with manganese is like a wild card. It's also less manganese. And I should say, like, we did shortchange the energy business last year, in that vehicle took priority over the energy side. So
Not on cells, but on chips.
on chips, exactly.
Yeah.
We do see a very, long-term, probably terawatt hour per year energy business. Yes. So a lot. It's very vast. Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you. So you see that 22 is kind of the opening of that the energy business reaccelerating.
It's hard to predict 2022 because we still have lingering supply chain. There are still lingering supply chain issues globally. But I think the chip stuff, at least the chip side of things, appears to looks like it will alleviate end of this year or 23. I mean, there are a crazy number of chip fabs being built, which is great. The sheer number of chip fabs being built right now is exciting to see. Yeah. So, but there could be other issues. We're trying to anticipate those as much as possible, but predicting the future is difficult.
And the goal is definitely to grow it this year.
Yeah. It'll grow this year, yeah, for sure. It just, if we're simply if we're able to respond to demand, it might grow by like 200 or 300% or something, as opposed to sort of 50% or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's exactly that. I mean, it's a question of, does it double, triple, quadruple? I mean, either way, I think our plans are pretty ambitious for Megapack this year, and storage in general.
Yeah.
The exact amount of growth is hard to know. But ultimately, I mean, to Elon's point about the growth of this business, I mean, we need to be growing it faster than the vehicle business.
It will actually grow faster than the vehicle business once we can alleviate the damn chip constraint, frankly. So it will grow like kelp on steroids, basically, down the road. It needs to. our primary mission is to accelerate sustainable energy. That's always been our primary mission, and we're trying to stay true to that.
Thank you. The next question comes from Ben Kalo from Baird.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I was wondering on the R&D front, because like you said, you have so many fish frying. How do you organize the R&D, efforts, so that you can, start talking about all these new products? Is there like an incubator or some type of thing like that? But just structurally, I'm curious about that. Thank you.
We don't have incubators.
Or research centers.
We don't have research centers.
No.
We're in it.
Yeah.
We work on things that go into our products.
Yeah, we're like, this is a useful product that the world really needs, and we're just like, let's make this thing, design it up and iterate fast, and then figure out how to make this at scale at a reasonable price. That last part is the super hard part. Many times I've said prototypes are easy, production is hard. If we could whip out a zillion prototypes, but what's the point of that? You actually reach scale production, and have cash in exceed cash out. That's the super hard part. So
everybody needs to be in the factory often enough to be able to understand that last part of the equation.
yeah,
And if you're in a research center,
Yeah, I mean,
Can't do-
doing them separately is like innovation for actually making products. So we, we don't think of it as R&D and then like the product development. It's just one fucking. Sorry.
Wow,
One go to
F-bomb.
Just make great products.
There's just in general, societally, there's way too much value placed on the idea. It's like, like the idea. Everyone can have the idea of going to the moon. That's not the hard part. Okay, going to the moon is the hard part by far. And the thing is that is true for really most products. So there's just way too much value placed on the idea of versus execution. We have ideas. We have a bazillion ideas. More ideas than we know what to do with. We have to sort through them and say which one are we actually going to go through the blood, sweat, and tears of bringing to volume production. That's the super, and then actually do that. That's tough. So,
and the closer you are to applying blood, sweat, and tears to actual production, the faster you'll be able to bring new things into actual production.
yeah, exactly. You want a tight feedback loop with production.
Yeah.
That's like the office we're sitting in right now. Literally looks over the Giga Texas production line. Like the offices are integrated into the factory.
Having worked at Tesla, this answer so beautifully encapsulates what it's like working there, FYI. That
Thank
was
you very
beautiful.
much. The next question comes from Tony Sakanagi from Bernstein.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. I have two, please. First, you spoke a lot about FSD and how the economics could be very attractive going forward. I'm wondering if you could just share what your current attach rate might be for FSD on your vehicles, or how to think about the progress of your attach rate or revenue in FSD, let's say in 21 versus 20, and how much deferred revenue for FSD was drawn down during the year. And I have a follow-up, please. Thank you.
I think the FSD stuff, you really don't want to be looking in the rearview mirror. It will not be a good indicator for the future. This is what you need to look out the front windscreen. Because it is such a profound step change. Effectively, long term, every car will have FSD. And the value of that will be a very big number. It's like, you just look at this as asset utilization, and you have passenger car, which normally is driven maybe 1.5 hours a day on average, maybe 10 hours, 12 hours a week. A lot of cars in parking lots. So we're spending money not just driving the cars, but storing them all over the place. We can get rid of a lot of parking lots if you have a car that is operating all the time. But there will be a challenge with traffic. So, we got like this little tiny baby company, the Boring Company, which I initially started as a joke, and now, but now I think it actually could be quite essential to alleviating the insane traffic that will happen when cars are autonomous, because you reduce the pain of travel and you reduce the cost of travel so dramatically that there will be a crazy number of cars on the road. I mean, it's going to be, I think it'll be cheaper to go point to point with a robotaxi, which is an autonomous Tesla, which every car we've made in the past 3 or 4 years will be capable of that, than a bus or a subway. It'll cost less than the subsidized value of a bus ticket. So people are not going to take the bus. If it costs you, I don't know, for argument's sake, $2 to travel 10 miles point to point, nobody's taking the bus, especially in cold weather or it's dark or maybe a little bit dangerous or hell with that, door to door. People just do not understand how profound a change this is. It's not like some little feature. It's like the most profound software upgrade maybe in history. Millions of cars suddenly have 4 or 5 times the utility than they used to have overnight. I don't actually know how to quantify that financially, except that it's some big number.
Okay, thank you for that. Elon, I was wondering if I could just follow up and ask you, you talked about your product roadmap and also your goal to keep growing at 50% per year or better. That would put you at 3.2 million vehicles or more in 2024. And I think you made reference to Cybertruck, maybe being 250,000 vehicles. If there is no $25,000 vehicle being worked on, is it really realistic to think that you can sell more than 3 million vehicles with 2 very high volume cars and Cybertruck in 2024? Or how do we think about that, or what else is missing in that equation?
Yeah, I mean, it is apparent from the questions that the gravity of full self-driving is not fully appreciated. If an asset has 5 times more utilization than it's like dividing the cost of that asset by 5. So if you have a $50,000 car, it's like having a $10,000 car all of a sudden. But maybe better than that, because still you don't need anyone to drive. So the person can be engaged in productivity or amusement instead of having to, onerously drive through traffic. So it's probably better than 5 times. I don't know. Yeah. Basically, if the cost of our cars did not change at all, we would still sell as many as we could possibly make.
Thank you. And the next question comes from Pierre Ferragu from New Street Research.
Hey, thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
I wanted to come back on batteries. So it's great to hear on one hand that you guys expect to sell like the first cars with 4680 this quarter, and at the same time that you don't really depend on that ramp to achieve your what you hope to achieve in terms of significant volume growth this year. And the question I had is, I understand well the ramp at 4680 internally, but I'd be curious to hear you talk about how you think about 4680 as being a form factor that your suppliers could adopt as well, and how you see in the long run, in the greater scheme of things, what does 4680 become? Is it going to be outside of Tesla the largest form factor for batteries? Is it something that you guys are going to deploy in all cars, whatever the chemistry, also in the Megapack, in all your energy storage business? And do you expect eventually a lot of other companies to use that form factor as well?
Yeah, on the 4680 as a form factor, yes, we've engaged with a number of our partners, our suppliers on the form factor, and they're all working on it. And they look at it the way we look at it, as a way to drive fundamental cost efficiencies in production, and also ultimately the design of the cell itself to drive the cost down of the cell. And so that's what's engaged. I mean, we're engaged because we think it's a good form factor. They're engaged because they think it's a good form factor, and we want people to make it for sure. To the question about should everything be 4680, it doesn't have to be. In the end, it's about cost competitiveness, scalability of manufacturing. And when you compare like a iron cell with a nickel cell, for example, like there are some just physics-based differences in what happens in certain corner cases that would drive different form factors, and we just have to be cognizant of that and design to that. So it isn't like the ultimate form factor for all things. There's other form factors that could be better for an iron cell, for example. So
yeah, we don't use 4680 at all for the iron set-based cells.
No.
Okay, thanks. And I have a quick follow-up on chips. So you've talked a lot about all this shortage and these supply difficulties. And I was wondering if you could give us some color on, like the power chips you need for inverters and all the power systems you're putting together versus like the more traditional logic chips, if the situation is different between the two. And should we understand from the situation today that you're working very hard also at expanding the scope of your suppliers, and should we expect like Tesla to take on board additional suppliers in the near term, especially on the power side?
Well, last year was chip hell of many chips. So silicon carbide inverters were certainly one of them, but
honestly, there's a lot of annoying, very boring parts.
Yeah. It's a ton of very simple control chips that run of the mill, literally, yeah, basic chips to control
voltage references, oscillators, just like very boring things.
Yeah, exactly. Like the little chip that allows you to move your seat back and forth. It actually was a big problem.
Yeah,
couldn't make seats. So I like, but a lot of these things are alleviating. I think there's some degree of the toilet paper problem as well, where there was a toilet paper shortage during COVID, and like obviously it wasn't really suddenly a tremendous enhanced need for ass wiping. It's just people panicked and ordered and got every paper product you could possibly wipe your ass with, basically. And I wasn't sure, is this like a real thing or not? I actually took my kids to the HEB and Walmart in Texas to just confirm that this is real. Indeed, it was. And there was plenty of food and everything else, but just nothing, no paper products that didn't cause a splinter. So an odd choice for people to panic about.
Mm-hmm.
If this end of the world's coming, I think toilet paper is the least of your problems. So I think we saw just a lot of companies overorder chips and they buffer the chips. And so we should see, and we are seeing alleviation in almost every area, but the output of the vehicle goes with the least lucky whatever the most problematic item in the entire car is, and there's like at least 10,000 unique parts in the car. So, way more than that if you go further up the supply chain. And so it's just which one is going to be the least lucky one this time? It's hard to say.
Yeah. I mean, on a go-forward basis, right, the idea is to continue to drive simplification. So there are fewer unique parts, fewer of them. On the power side in particular, it's still like an area of like technological development where, the next chip can do the same thing with less die area. So like the total fab required to accomplish the function goes down. So there's still room to grow without needing more fab capacity. But in general, there's a lot more fab capacity coming. So that's like a win-win there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a long-term thing because there's going to be there's a crazy amount of chip fabs being built, which is great.
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this session. Thanks very much for all your good questions, and we'll speak to you again in 3 months' time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay. Dang, y'all. Jeez. Okay. Well, that was a lot. That was 11 pages of notes. Thank you very much, everybody. Wow. All right, let me try to set this up real quick. Let me drink some water. My head hurts. There was a lot there. Man. That two highlights from me right off the bat that were funny. Elon talking about toilet paper shortages and somebody dropping an F-bomb. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. That was really, really cool. Okay, how do I get back to that view thing? Do I click on this? Okay. I locked myself out. How do I can anybody help me get back to my thing up there? That's it. I hit F11. Is it just escape? Thank you. Look at that. Thank you. Okay. So. Woo-hoo. Okay, let's get started. So they've begun production, and are you going to send the notes out? Yeah, why not? Let's just make them public, right? I'm going to go ahead and share this. Farzad, Q4 21 notes. Tesla notes. Tesla earnings notes. And I'm going to go on my Twitter. And I'm going to post it for y'all. So y'all can access it from my Twitter. My Twitter is @Farziness in case you guys want to access that. So here are my notes from the 2021 Q4 Tesla earnings call. Right? Copy link. And change. Only people added can open. No, I need to do anyone with the link can view. Okay, there we go. Okay. Off we go. So if you guys want to click on that and follow along, you can. We can go from there. You can have follow-up videos with Q&As on the notes. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I think that's a good idea. Are you overall happy with the call and product roadmap? Yeah, I am very happy with the call, and we'll kind of get into the detail a little bit, but I think really the things that stand out to me are really Elon's bullishness around full self-driving is hard to understate. He's like really hammering the point of full self-driving for 2022. There was a question around somebody was asking about, okay, so Model 2 or, the $25,000 car is going to, how does that line up with your expectations of more car sales in 2023, like 3 million cars a year? And Elon kept saying, people do not understand the impact of full self-driving. So if you have a car whose utility goes up 5x, right, you have one car that can do the job of 5 cars, then do you really need, why are we asking the question about how many cars are you going to ship? Because if you take the existing fleet of 2 million cars, and those 2 million cars are 5 times more capable, like they have more capacity because of full self-driving, just driving around, picking people up and stuff, then that's going to become a huge boom to how many cars are available on the road, because you go from 2 million to essentially 10 million, right? So it was very interesting because they gave guidance of 50% growth year over year, but he's like really focusing, driving point to home around full self-driving. It's really, really interesting. Anyway, let's start getting through the to the notes here. But overall, I'm very happy, but pretty nuts. So they started production in Austin and Berlin, and 4680 sales in Texas for Model Y. So the first car should be soon. He kind of mentioned they're waiting for some certification. So Q1 Model Y 2021 or 2022 is very, very much a possibility. No new locations yet, but working on it through 2022, end of the year, new build announcements. So that what they're saying here is that they're giving some guidance on the gigafactories that are going to be new to the Tesla sort of build out for into 2023. They expect to announce some at the end of 2022, but really their focus right now is to build production into their existing locations and Austin and Berlin. 2022 supply chain is still a problem. And one of the notes I made is that he seems to be in a good mood. So as he was going through, I kept hearing like chuckling in the background when questions were being asked, which is a very Elon thing to do. 2022 should still be a big growth, above 50% likely. So that's kind of, if we did almost 1 million this year, then we'll probably do 1.5 at least in 2022. And then Elon reiterated this multiple times on the call, but he's really confident that full self-driving is going to be a thing in 2022. He seems very, very bullish on it. He's really pushing it on the call. He was really pushing it on the call. And I'm not surprised per se, but I think this is sort of signaling Tesla's next sort of like its evolution as a company, as a stock. There was also something else about there was something else he mentioned about the bot as well that I want to just highlight. Let's look at aftermarket real quick, actually. 0.61. So it looks like after the call was over, this thing keeps bugging out. This chart's not right. So it looks like we ended the day up. So we went down 5% when the earnings release first came out, and then after the call we're at 0.6. So it looks like we came up as the call went along. So lots to talk about on product roadmap. So still working on a few things. They want to save a lot of their talks of the specific products for later. Like they want to talk about the $25,000 car as its own product, the Optimus bot Prime as its own product. So their goal for 2022 is scaling output is really the biggest goal. And one of the notes they said is that if they were to release new products in 2022, it would actually decrease production because of how much the chip constraint was hurting them. So that was an interesting comment. They don't expect any new vehicle models in 2022. So we shouldn't see Cybertruck. We shouldn't see Semi. We shouldn't see the $25,000 car or Optimus, right? So that was another thing that Elon mentioned, Optimus. Optimus came up. He lumped it in with this group of products, which was very interesting. And so based on that discussion, he kind of went into talking about the bot. And he said, we're going to focus on the production of these new products, lumping in the bot, it seemed, into next year, which was interesting. So does Elon expect bot to start producing next year in 2023? That would have been way earlier than I would have expected. But, the big variable for the bot is the full self-driving computer. And if he thinks he can get the full self-driving computer up to a certain level, then boy, that becomes a huge variable. So Cybertruck 2023 is basically confirmed for next year, right? Based on that guidance. But the robot is the most important product development in 2022. That was a comment that Elon made on the call, is that out of all the products they're working on, he thinks the bot is the most important product development in 2022, which was fascinating to hear. More significant than the vehicle business over time, Elon basically confirmed Tesla is officially an AI company. So when he was when he was talking about it, he was basically talking about the bot as being the most profound product they'll have because of how it's going to impact labor and work. And he really started almost like hyping it up a little bit. I got really excited. And so that was very interesting to hear. But I think this is more for those that were thinking of for, as Tesla as an AI company or as a robotics company. I think this call is yet another sort of thing that really drives home that point, is that Elon thinks of Tesla as a robotics AI company, not as a car company. Fascinating stuff. Truly fascinating stuff. 4680, the sales from suppliers exceed their constraints. So 4680 is not a constraint in 2022 as they shift over, and they expect 4680 to be first vehicle deliveries in Q1 will out of Austin and Berlin will Austin will come out with 4680s. All production for 4680s is going to be in Austin, Texas. Chip limitations are still legit in 2022, and then as they transition out of the chip shortage in 2022, the battery shortage will become a factor likely into 2023. So they'll go from chip constraint to battery constraint, and that's how it's going to transition. Comments from Zach, the CFO, the margins trending up, regulatory credits continue to reduce into 2023. They'll eventually become irrelevant to the business. The expedite costs were up due to supply chain issues, so meaning, shipping stuff overnight and things like that. Cash flow increase even with factory build-outs. Higher fixed costs near term due to ramping factories. Not surprised to hear that. Obviously, that's because, you have to get the factories up and running, get the labor in there. Inflation continues to put pressure on costs. Near-term impact to gross margin is uncertain. So inflation was another topic of discussion, especially with the Fed and everything. I felt like that was good to highlight. Continue to improve on operating leverage, which should continue to increase margins, and long-term optimism on margins. Hardware improvements, FSD, which was very similar to the letter and what they were talking about, and they gave a big shout out to the suppliers. Okay, so that was sort of the beginning remarks that they had. The thing that really stood out to me was the bot comment was huge. No new vehicle models in 2022, which basically says they're going to focus super hard on ramping up production for all their models this year, and that they expect full self-driving to really start driving margins. Especially towards the end of the year. So that was fascinating stuff. My head's still spinning from that bot comment. Like that's very surprising to me. I'm just very surprised that they're talking about it so much already, And I made a video about this. I made a video, like one of my earlier videos, I had the bot being a gigantic part of their business by 2035. But the way Elon's talking about it now, like, do I need to move it up? I might need to move it up. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. I'll make a video about this at some point this week, I think. So during the Q&A call, $25,000 car was asked, when is it going to come out? They're not working on it at the moment, meaning that, it's not something that they're truly focused on right now. But Elon said, the right question, when is the car going to become autonomous? That's the wrong question to ask. It's like, when is full self-driving going to really become a thing? That's what's really going to drive a lot of the growth when it comes to the car market, right? How do you view domestic cooling and heating? So aligns with Tesla mission. I think Drew answered this question. Tesla knows how to make heat pumps. They're excited to work on it, which probably means they're probably already working on it, in my opinion. Tight compact package doesn't exist. It's similar to a vehicle, so meaning in a house setting or a building setting. Harder on a vehicle versus a house should be an easy problem. So they're kind of saying here that if they do want to get into the HVAC business, it should be easy for them to do, because the car solution is harder because of how tightly packed it has to be in the car. Whereas if you do it in a house or a commercial building or something, they think it's going to be much easier to do. So that's bullish. That means that when they do get into it, they think they're going to be able to create a very good product, which is not, it's par for the course for Tesla. And I made some stupid comment at some point. Split FSD into perpetual term licenses, commercial versus individual. Elon says that it's too complicated. Really the goal here should be what solves for the lowest cost per mile or per kilometer. Just focus on that and charge sensibly for charging and full self-driving. So really the idea here is that they don't want to overcomplicate how full self-driving technology is licensed. They just want to make it as cheap as humanly possible and make it very sensible, right? Is Dojo on track for summer 2022? Elon said yes, but really he also made a comment that said that they don't really need Dojo to solve full self-driving. He made that comment a couple of times in the call. Really, the goal for Dojo is it needs to be better than a GPU cluster, and the goal for the team, and that's the goal for the team. And then the threshold should be to beat that cluster by 2023. And again, it's not needed for full self-driving, but it's a cost optimization. So it makes their labeling and self-training process cheaper. If Dojo becomes really competitive, then Tesla's likely willing to share the tech with other companies, which I think that's sort of going back to one of my original comments. Could full self-driving turn into this whole like seatbelt issue with Volvo, where it turned out to save so many lives that they, had almost like a moral responsibility to share the tech, right? Could full self-driving be the case with Dojo? I don't know. And Elon still thinks Dojo will succeed, and they're openly recruited for that team on the call, which was fascinating. The first use of Tesla bots. So Tesla will first use it at Tesla, moving parts around factory or something like that. So, that their whole thing is, if we're going to make the bot, we should probably prove that it works first before we expect other people to buy it, which obviously makes a ton of sense. Tesla insurance, US or international, the uptake rate. So they made a comment about how it's offered in 5 states today, that their take rate was very strong in Texas. The economics seem to be working, and they're very comfortable to move quickly across the US given how Texas is working out. The internal goal in the US is by the end of 2022, which was a very a big comment that I took away there, is that by the end of 2022, they want 80% of Tesla customers to have access to Tesla insurance. So if you think where most of Tesla's customers are, that's California, Texas, Florida, New York, these big city centers or popular places where Teslas are bought. So a lot of those people are going to have access to Tesla insurance by the end of the year, most likely, especially large metro areas. Chicago is probably going to be another one. Expansion into international markets towards the beginning of 2023. So that was interesting. Expected max capacity of current factories and new factories. So they want to optimize localization of production, right? So they want to use things like Austin to ship into the East Coast, and then they're planned to announce new factories in late 2022. So that was sort of a reiteration for the previous one. No problem, Anthony. Thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, my friend. Biggest Cybertruck bottlenecks. Batteries will probably not be the limiting factor. New tech that will take time to work through. And trying to take advantage of cost of Cybertruck. They're trying to make the average cost of Cybertruck affordable. That's really the biggest problem to solve for. Their expectation is, I initially heard this as 1 million per year, which shocked me, but obviously chat corrected me. Cybertruck is expected to be about 250,000 per year, so 250,000 cars per year, which is sort of where they expect the car to be from a production perspective. Margins. Mix of Model Y increasing. As that level increases, margins go up, which makes a lot of sense because Model Y profit is more than Model 3. Localization in Shanghai has been huge for margins, as well as the Model X and X refresh. There were various price increases that they did, which helped margins as well. And the pressures from inflation, supply chain, and Berlin, Austin ramp are going to weigh those margins down, but they're offset by the things we just described. But where it nets out exactly is hard to understand, is Zach is being very measured when he gives his guidance, because he doesn't want to say, hey, our margins are going to be incredible. He's using these sort of variables to set a good expectation. Zach is very good at sandbagging and setting not unrealistic expectations. So I really like him for that. And then the software portion is going to drive the margin, right? They keep reiterating this full self-driving thing. 2022 is a year of full self-driving. It really does seem that way. And then Elon dropped this quote: everything pales in comparison to the value of robotaxi and full self-driving. So that's another thing. He almost doesn't even care about the rest of the business from a financial perspective, because he sees of the mind that robotaxi and full self-driving are going to be completely game-changing. It's going to really change how Tesla's financials are going to look. And then Elon again mentioned level 4 autonomy in 2022. Do you need Dojo to get there? So he reiterated and said Dojo's not required. It's really just a game of March of nines of reliability, so 99.99999% safe, right? And he made a comment that being safer than a human is a low standard. And then, so my question there is, will the regulators agree, right? So that's what Elon thinks about for full self-driving. Are the regulators going to agree with that? That's really the big variable that's going to drive full self-driving to be a legitimate thing. So if regulators are aligned with Elon that being safer than a human is a low standard, right? Then full self-driving should be adopted relatively quickly. If regulators disagree, right, then it's not going to be adopted as quickly. Doesn't really matter how good the software is. Okay. Elon is bullish on data trends from the beta program. Big changes coming in the next few months that are profound. So keeps hyping it up. I have beta 10.8 right now. I'm waiting for 10.9, or I forget which one I'm on. Anyway, I don't have the latest one. I'm curious to see how that goes. And Elon's shocked if full self-driving is not achieved safer than human by the end of 2022. So this kind of goes back to the whole six weeks, maybe 6 weeks, definite 6 months, definitely kind of comment. Can we trust Elon on this statement? I'm not really sure, but he was really, really, really pushing full self-driving on this call. It was actually, yeah, I keep saying it, but I'm just a little shocked by it, to be completely honest. Megapack, supply chain constraints, 2 different strategies. Powerwall is 4680 long term. Can you talk about the LFP and supply chain for Megapack? So Elon said that over time, all storage will transition to iron-based systems and non-nickel systems. Manganese potential, but primarily iron. So if you want to sort of buy some iron, maybe it's a good idea to buy some iron futures. 2021 vehicle took priority over energy side. Terawatt hours per energy per year for the energy business long term is going to be multiple terawatt hours or terawatt hour level production, which is a lot. Still hard to predict 2022 for energy due to the supply chain. The chip stuff will alleviate at the end of 2022, 2023, but lots of chip fabricators are being built, and Elon is excited about that. So that's going to be great for alleviating those supply chain issues. And so it looks like really 2022, they're still giving a cautious note as far as like what the supply chain constraints are going to be. But they're really, they do think 2023 is going to be much better. So we'll see. Energy will grow in 2022, but still constrained. This was a very interesting comment, but matching demand could be as high as 200 to 300% growth year over year, right? So they're guiding towards, they made a comment around like, it could be as, it could be 50%, but if we really match demand, it could be as high as 200 to 300% growth, right? So they think that the demand for the energy products are still vastly outstripping supply. So that's something to look out for. The really question becomes like, when can they alleviate that, right? Thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, Nishith. I hope I pronounced it right. I apologize if I didn't, but thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Thank you. R&D efforts. Is there an incubator? Helps us understand your R&D process. This was a fascinating question because the question was not very good, to be completely honest. They basically asked us like, okay, what do you guys do for R&D? How do you guys, maybe it is a good question, but not a great one for, I don't know. Maybe it is a good question. I'm not really sure. But at the time, I thought it was silly. But they gave a really interesting answer, for that is, they keep reiterating prototypes are easy, production is hard. Just work on the thing that you need, and somebody dropped an F-bomb because they were very passionate about that statement. And so what the fascinating thing is that Elon and the team were just constantly talking about just forget coming up with like ideas are easy, right? Like coming up with prototypes is easy. The really hard thing is to just getting your hands dirty and figuring out how to make the thing happen, right? And at my time at Tesla, that was a perfect way of describing it. It's like we came up with ideas constantly, but they don't matter. Like you have to get in there and make something happen. You have to test it to make sure it happens. And so they went on that for a little bit and kind of riffed on just why that's so important and kind of bringing all the teams together to execute against it. Yeah, just do it, right? James Teal said it like kind of like that Nike style, right? Just do it. That's exactly right. And that was kind of the message that they were sort of throwing out there. It's like, who cares about the prototype? Just get in there and freaking get it done, right? I love that answer to not a very good question in my opinion. But yeah, that was fascinating to see. And it made me very excited. The R&D answer is so much different than the R&D spent in other companies. So much better. I agree 100%. It was fascinating. For full self-driving, has Tesla already recognized revenue in year, even though software is in beta? I believe there's still some revenue to be recognized. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't think they fully recognized full self-driving yet. As far as what team were you on at Tesla? I was a program manager on the supply chain side, distribution more specifically. Okay, full self-driving attach rate. Focusing on previous rates doesn't make a lot of sense because it'll be so different in the future. Can get rid of a lot of parking spots. There will be a challenge with traffic. Boring company can be very essential to alleviate traffic of autonomous travel. He made a mention about he started this as a joke, but now it might actually be a legit solution, which was fascinating. Sorry, cost of travel will be so low that there'll be too many cars on the road. So like what's interesting here is that the analyst sort of talked about, the full self-driving attach rate is sort of a backwards looking metric. Elon's really focused on, okay, what is the future going to look like if every car's self-driving, right? So and if every car's self-driving, cost of travel will be so low that there'll be too many cars on the road. Traffic is going to be incredibly hard to overcome, right? Because it's going to be so cheap. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted here for a second. It'll be cheaper to go point to point with a robotaxi than a bus or a subway. Cheapest form of transport, right? And then Elon threw this number out of $2 per 10 miles. So $1 per 5 miles transportation. So if you have that situation, what is your traffic situation going to look like, right? That would be nuts. That would be completely nuts. And it will completely reinvent what it means to get around. If hailing a robotaxi is cheaper than, getting a bus ticket or a subway ticket, especially in areas where I live, there's no subway. The bus doesn't really run where I'm at, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. Elon reiterates how profound this change will be. Most important software update in history. Still hyping it up. He was just really hardcore on full self-driving. He's really hardcore on full self-driving. Is the 3 million vehicle number in 2023 a target without 25,000? And again, Elon, still driving point with that full self-driving. Tesla's fleet will 5x due to full self-driving utilization. You don't need more cars on the road if the cars you have on the road can do the work of 5 cars, right? Fascinating stuff. Fascinating comment. And again, reiterates just how important full self-driving is going to be to the whole equation. Then Pierre asked a question. I love his accent. He's French. He's a Frenchman, and he's got a great accent. Is 4680 going to be used by suppliers as well? Is it going to be outside of Tesla's form factor, i.e. used by other manufacturers? And so Tesla answered by saying Tesla has engaged with a number of partners on the form factor, and they're all working on it. It's about cost competitiveness in the end. Doesn't have to be 4680. Doesn't have to be the ultimate form factor. So basically said, yep, for the ones that we want to get 4680 going, we've worked with them already, but it doesn't have to be the end-all be-all form factor. There's other ones out there that could be used for specific cases, right? And then last question was about chips. Is Tesla working to expand chip suppliers to alleviate the issue? 2021 chip issues were for boring parts. Elon makes a parallel of toilet paper issues with chip parts. Even check local HEB to confirm TP outage. Texas fans probably love them for dropping that HEB name. Texas folks are very proud of HEB, which is a grocery chain. I can see why. A lot of chip issues were over ordering. They are seeing alleviation, right? So that's a positive sign for 2022, late 2022. And go forward ideas to continue simplifying parts so that they don't have to use as many chips. So fascinating stuff. Very, very cool call. I'm really shocked by the bot guidance that they gave on the call. I think Elon's super hardcore full self-driving guidance was also a big thing that stood out to me. But yeah, those are my notes. I shared them on my Twitter in case anybody wants to see them. Just feel free to hit up my Twitter account for that at Farziness. Let's do some Q&A here for a little bit before I call it a day. I've been talking for so long, but I don't mind because y'all are so nice, right? So we'll go a little bit longer here. If anybody has any comments or questions, let's dig into it for a little bit before we wrap this sucker up, and then we'll take it from there. Oh man, what a crazy call! What a crazy call that was. What's so let's look at the stock price here real quick. So we're ending the day up 0.38% in aftermarket 941. So that's not bad. That's good. That's positive. We're up. right? Nothing wrong with that. What are the implications of with Tesla being an AI company? Yeah, so the implications there is that their profitability profile is going to be completely different from any other manufacturer, right? So compare a GM or a Ford with a Tesla, right? Really any company that makes anything with a Tesla. I'm really like, I'm at the point now where I would challenge anyone to pick out a company whose AI capabilities are going to be nearly as good as Tesla's, or within the realm of the capability of Tesla. And then if you think about the impact of AI, so if the bot is successful and all hard labor is replaced by a bot, why isn't, like, everything would be so freaking cheap, you know? It's very, I have to think about it more, but the implications there are pretty nuts. They're very, very nuts. Would you consider returning to Tesla? What a great call, and things to come in the next 5 years. Yeah, a really great call. I don't know. Right now, I really like my life a lot. I like the freedom. I like doing this a lot. You know, I want to travel some more. I want to spend more time with my wife and my family and friends and stuff. So, you know, never say never, but right now I'm very happy where I'm at. Go back through the comments. Some good comments. Yeah, I'll just go through the comments here. It's a few of them came through, and I don't want to take up too much people's times, but yeah. Yeah, Tesla Motors Club is a great place. I do like Tesla Motors Clubs quite a bit. I like how he kept reiterating how nutty the numbers get when you actually do. Yeah, I agree. That was a thing that really kept coming up to me as well. It's like, he's so hardcore on full self-driving on this call. Who wants to partner on a small Tesla robotaxi fleet with me? Haha. That's a great business opportunity. Hit him up. Hit up James if you're interested. Hit him up. Yeah, great. It was a really good call. I really did enjoy this call a lot. When should I buy puts on GM stock? I don't know. That's for you to figure out, my friend. Not financial advice, as people like to do. Yeah, let's not do this. Let's just keep it simple here, guys. What do you think of the idea of rewarding beta testers for reporting issues or helping to train full self-driving? Yeah, I don't know. I think having the full self-driving itself is, I guess, the reward. So we'll see. I'm not really sure if that's gonna change, but I doubt it. What was your take on Dojo? Sounds almost redundant now. No, I think Dojo is gonna be a legitimate for driving full self-driving technology for the entire industry, not just Tesla. And, you know, if it does make the improvement of full self-driving faster, then you should do it, right? It's just because it's not necessary doesn't mean that it's not important, right? So I think long term it's useful, but maybe, you know, not super crucial, but it will be useful. In how many years will Tesla be bigger than CHOAM? I'm not really sure what that is. Can help clarify that for me. You're very welcome, Rick. Thank you very much. Yeah, numbers should already be out. We've been talking about this whole time. You're very welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. How do you think the market will digest the earnings call tomorrow? Yeah, I don't know. I think it should be positive. You know, you never know. I think the question becomes, like, how much is the market buying into full self-driving becoming a huge thing? And if they're buying into it, then I think the price will be up a lot. If not, then who knows? But we'll see. Do you have to purchase full self-driving? And if it's expensive, why would one buy it? Yes, you do have to buy it. It's $12,000. Yeah, I think there's still, you know, people do say that, hey, you could make an argument that it's not super useful yet, but I can tell you from my usage of it, you know, it is getting better. It is getting better. We're at the age of information at the moment. I think that the next part will be called the age of abundance. Yeah, that would be amazing. I read a couple books about this recently. I read Forward by Andrew Yang, and I also read The Price of Tomorrow by, oh my God, John. Dang, who wrote this book? I'm sorry, Jeff Booth. That's right. Great books. Thoughts of a powered tailgate on the Cybertruck? Yeah, they should totally do it. I think that would be a great call. Biggest threat to progress of Tesla's mission? I think Elon dying is one. You know, Elon dying would be a big deal. And maybe China pulling the rug under Shanghai might be a problem, but I don't know if that's realistic. Service center issues. Yeah, I am of the mind that, they are legit, but I think it's probably smaller than people think. But it's still legit, right? But I don't know if it requires the entire focus of an entire call. They don't want to blow it outside of a proportion, right? But I do know people have issues, and they should continue to talk about them because they're important. You want your customer base to be happy. Doesn't he say we don't really need a $25,000 car? We can drive around in a $60,000 car for 20 cents a mile. I don't know if he said that. I think what he said was that, within the context of like the growth of the fleet, that the $25,000 car is not really the question. The question is full self-driving and how that drives utilization of a car, right? So I think he's talking about it more broadly. Thank you, Manny. Yeah, this was hard work. This is hard work. It feels like I'm at work, but it's fun. It's really fun, actually. I do like taking notes, and it helps me understand. And obviously, if you guys get value from it, then even better. Yeah, that's one of the very scary things about overabundance. Is it going to land in the hands of a few, right? That's something we're going to have to talk about as a society, and maybe I'll make a video about this, or we'll make a live stream to discuss this. But yeah, it's we got to be careful. Yeah, I know, like, they're working on something, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do it at the level of Tesla. Yeah, I agree. I think they do see the light at the end of the tunnel here. Stargazer. Elon is super confident on full self-driving at level 4. Yeah. Yeah, Hertz. That's why I invested in Hertz, is because of full self-driving. They want to make their own self-driving fleet, which is very important. Lithium iron phosphate, is that 4680? I'm not super up on the chemistry of the batteries, but yeah, I don't really have any thoughts on that. I agree. I think analysts here, bots and full self-driving, will fly over the heads of analysts. I do think analysts can't look that long into the future, and it's hard to model, so it's probably not going to be a thing until it actually starts happening, most likely. Does full self-driving need to be better than a very good human driver before being accepted by regulators? Yeah, that's the question, right? Like, how much better than a human does it have to be? It has to be at least it has to be at least way better than a human, right, for it to be accepted. So, but is that 2x, 5x, 10x? We'll see. Yeah, no talk on the semi-truck. Mary led, don't forget. Bear and bull case price targets for 2030. I actually have a video earlier in my channel where I outlined my yearly price targets. Check that out. I think you'll find those there. Yeah, Elon's definitely thinking about a new way of doing robotaxis. It's pretty fascinating. Bye-bye, James. Enjoy your day, my friend. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you. All right, let's do a couple more here, and then let's wrap it up, shall we? Yeah, 2022 does seem to like the jump board, especially for AI. It's pretty wild stuff. Do I think it can split? I mean, it's all dependent on how affordable Tesla wants their stock to be. I think if it goes up a lot more, then they'll definitely split. Is it possible for Tesla to grow 50% beyond 2024? It's all dependent on their market, right? If you think that they have a long pathway into making a lot of electric cars into, as they grow into 20 million cars per year, then yes. If not, then no. But, they've given guidance for 20 million cars by 2030. So one would think that they would. Yeah, I believe I just answered this. Yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be, full self-driving. It's either going to be a huge driver for people wanting to buy the cars or to use the cars. Do I think Elon's timelines are getting more accurate? He's definitely sandbagging more, but he is aggressive about full self-driving being solved this year, so we'll see. Yeah, they just have a job to do, right? Yeah, it could be better. It could be 1,000 times better than a human full self-driving, I'm assuming, right? Autopilot is already 10 times better than a human driver. I don't know if it's 10 times, but it's definitely significant. It's significantly safer than a human driver in specific situations, right? Top 2 or 3 takeaways from the call. Yeah, my top 2 are definitely full self-driving is going to be 2022 is the year of full self-driving, and the bot seems to be closer than we think. Those are my 2 big takeaways. And the third one is margins are going to continue to increase because of full self-driving. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Time for a beer or scotch. I know, man. I feel like I need a scotch right now, right? I wish the Cybertruck could be produced soon. Yeah, that should be coming here in 2023, but definitely not this year, based on the guidance they gave here. I worry about government getting in the way of full self-driving. Yeah, me too. But I think ultimately we need to make sure it's safe, right? If it's not safe, then we shouldn't have it. You know, we should not have it. So anyway, okay, that was fun. Did you have fun? I had fun. I had a blast, y'all. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. This will be available as a replay. I think I'll continue to do these every quarter. I really enjoyed them. I might get more into live streams as well, maybe different topics. Maybe we'll pick a topic and we'll live stream it and we'll have an open discussion about it. But yeah, we'll go from there and see what happens. Technotopia, thank you so much for the super chat. Tesla's focus on ramping production without new products could mean massive growth in profits. That's a great point. You know, they don't have to sink too much money into into the production of new cars. And yeah, that's great. That's a great point. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Do you dye your beard? Is gloriously back? No, I just have a lot of facial hair and it's dark, so that's funny. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much for stopping by again. This will be available as a replay. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, is at Farziness. Had a blast. We'll do this again for next quarter, and again, we'll look to do more live streams on different topics as they come along. I had a blast doing it. So, have a great night. Thank you very much. Don't let the bed bugs bite, and we'll see you around. Bye bye.